Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This week, obviously, we are doing another Hidden Figures episode for the Podbites with Verna website and the podcast. I'm Verna Collins Odom, and I thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Just wanted to let you know we are about to reveal our most recent hidden figure. She is getting ready to get on with me, and we chose her because of the incredible work that she is doing within her community. She is from Greensboro, North Carolina, and she has a program that you are going to want to hear about. So thank you for being here. As you know, we do stories with folks every week, and I'm always talking to people with interesting narratives who are doing exciting things or in great roles. And one of those you're going to meet here today. But we try, of course, to inform you, to inspire you, and to ignite you to action, to do something in your own life that maybe you've been called to do and might have been putting off, or just maybe haven't had time to get around to, or you are starting it and you just want some steam to go behind it. So that's kind of what our focus is. I see that my guest is here. I'm going to try to get her on. This, of course, takes a second, so I appreciate you guys being patient. Let me see. It says she's here. I'm going to try to add her with us. It says it's adding, so let's see if it all works out. It says it's connecting, and there she is. Hi, that is. How are you? I know you have to straighten it up and everything, so
I
we
know.
we that's how it goes. So don't even worry about it. Everybody, you are looking right now at Evainna Ross, and she is here with me, and she is our guest today for our Hidden Figures episode. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I was so excited for this interview because obviously you have been doing a lot of work. You're a hard woman to catch because you're always out and about working with your young men. And I am going to let people know exactly what you're doing. So, you are the executive director and the founder of the Sparrow's Nest. And that is a nonprofit that's in Greensboro, North Carolina. You've been doing phenomenal work. And I just want to applaud you and wanted to focus on you and just kind of talk about the program and talk about you. Is that okay?
That's great.
All
You
right.
know, not, but that's great.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to bring that up, but everybody, let me just let you in on a little secret. Evainna is a very wonderful behind the scenes soul. She wants to do the work. She's the boots on the ground. She has her young men out there working in the community. You're going to hear about that, but she likes to kind of focus on them. But today, Evainna, the focus is on you. Let's get right to it before I lose you. All right. So your nonprofit, of course, is, as we talked about, the Sparrow's Nest. Tell me, why did you form that? Because I know that you have a program under it. We're going to talk about that as well. But tell me, why did you form that program? Why did you get that nonprofit going?
It actually started when I was a youth director at an inner city church at St. James Baptist Church here in Greensboro. And really from there and working with all the different children who were coming from the area public housing communities, as well as some of the outlying communities as well. But it really became a focus, and it really weighed on my heart that there were so many young people who were missing out on some great opportunities that were being offered in the community only because they were unable to afford to have these services.
Mhm.
Um, I was very blessed to work under Reverend Princey Graves, who was a trailblazer in
Oh,
the
yeah.
area. And whatever I asked, I want to do this for the kids, or I want to do that. And he was always like, let's do it, let's do it. So it went beyond just the spiritual foundation that we were offering these young people, but we were also providing them with cultural activities as well. And the one thing that really sparked this whole thing was we were taking these young people to the beach,
Mm.
and the church said that they were going to pay for us to let them go and stay at a condo, on the beach. And a lot of these youth had never even gone to the beach before. And I said, okay, everybody, it's going to be $3 for you to go for the weekend at the beach. And that was going to cover the food and the snacks. And I had quite a few young people saying, I can't go. Because I don't have $3. My family doesn't have $3. I was like, oh gosh, you're going to go. I'm going to pay for all that. Don't you even worry about it. But it just really made me realize that, what are these young people really missing out on because their families aren't able to afford something that, we think is simple as $3, but
True.
they're missing, they would have missed out on going to the beach for the weekend and eating seafood and different things like that. So it really started there. And my first kind of board of directors really consisted of the young people from that church and a few other community members and church members. And that's where it was really all kind of birthed, was as a result of those kids not having $3 to go on a beach trip.
Well, that is incredible because many times we hear those stories and we know that's out there. We know that there are folks who are struggling, we could say, and we see it, but many times we don't act. What in you made you do that? What made you, because I know you were involved with the youth, I understand that part, but many times we don't take it to the next step. It's like, hey, we want to help. We want things to be better for you. How did you start developing that? What developed that in you to say, I'm going to take this on? I'm not going to wait for somebody else to start it. I'm going to start it.
I really think the foundation is based upon my parents. Because of what I saw them do all the time. I had two very successful parents, but they always were about giving back. And I always tell the story of, one night I'm in the back seat of the car and there was someone at church who was in need of some groceries and some money. And here we are at night with a box of food and some money in a box. And, my mom is running up to the door, leaving it on the door, ringing the doorbell, running out, and we're speeding off. And they're telling me, don't you ever tell anybody that we did this. And so they did this and still do this to this day. They're always looking for ways to help people. And it's not about getting any type of recognition. It's really just jumping in there where the need was. So I really think the foundation absolutely sparked from my parents and seeing them jumping in instead of just saying, well, we're just going to pray for you. And it's not to say that prayers aren't great, because I pray, believe in the power of prayer. But it's all about if you have it to do, then do something. It's so that's where I got the fire from, would be from my parents.
So giving hearts, birthing other giving hearts.
Absolutely. And so, and that's really the whole purpose of this program as well, is, even teaching the young men in the program, there's a level of outreach that is required of them every month. So I want them to get in the habit of being the entrepreneurs, of being the philanthropists, for being the ones who are out there in the streets, that are working behind the scenes to help make a difference. And so I want that to carry on. I want that to be a part of my legacy.
So let's talk about that. You brought it up. We, of course, are here to talk about you and to talk about the program. The program is called the Black Suit Initiative, which I think is an amazing title, especially when you told me the reason. Can you tell everybody, and then we're going to talk about what the young men do and what you do with them. Tell us the reason you chose that name.
Well, I'll try to make my story short.
That's fine.
Well, it really started before the Black Suit Initiative even started. I was working with a group that we created called the Chosen 50. And we were working with young men and young women, primarily from public housing or higher crime areas. And like I said, we were working male, female, Black, white, you name it. And so this was a very successful leadership program, and we were extremely engaged in the community. We received national and regional recognition for our duties. But then around the late 2015, 2016, there was a shift, it seems like, in Greensboro, where there were a lot more headlines where heinous crimes were being committed by young Black males. And so we decided that we really wanted to then focus on Black males. So I took the kids that we did have in the program, and we started doing surveys within the community to find out about young men. Who were their mentors? Who did they look up to within their own lives? What about in the country? And it was just shocking when we did these surveys that so few of these young people who we interviewed, primarily from some of the higher crime areas, that these young men could not identify positive African-American role models in the country. I mean, of the 61 we interviewed, only like 3 could identify positive male role models within the country. Of course, we took at that time, President Obama was in office, and so we said, you can't name the president, and you can't name a rapper, and you can't name a professional athlete. And that just basically cleared everyone off the table, and they're like, we don't know. And so it was like Steve Harvey and Denzel Washington, and I can't remember who the third person was. And a lot of them could name anyone, black or white, in a male role model who they considered to be positive in their lives. So
can I say something? This is interesting. This part, I just wanted to mention to give people some perspective. Greensboro is a place that has a good number of African-American Black people who are successful, people who are doctors, who are lawyers. So there's some parts of the country maybe where you don't know anybody or you wouldn't know anybody. But this area where you're from is not a place that is a desert, in regard to color and representation in those arenas. But you're speaking of these young men's experiences. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out so people would know where you're talking about it, because that is still very interesting that they did not, were unable to have a reference point to have a positive Black role model that they look up to. But you were saying that that is kind of where you were starting with them.
Absolutely. And it all really boils down to access, because if you don't have transportation and there you don't have money where you can like actually go into town and hear a lecture, or you can, visit a college campus, if you don't know what's out there, then you know. And so we took it a step further, and I started talking with gang members, and these were gang members anywhere between the ages of 16 and 21 that I brought into the room at separate times. And, they were very honest with me, and they said, we have guns with us. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out how we could have changed your trajectory. How could we have saved you from going down this particular path? And so these young men that we brought in, and I admit that, I just thought that I knew what their answers were going to be. And they came in there and they're like, we want to understand how to negotiate a contract. How do we invest in real estate? How do we get our own franchise? How do we dress for a job interview? And so I was just blown away by all of these really great answers they were giving. So from there, I took everything that they gave me and created the Black Suit Initiative. And so I always give them credit for this organization kind of morphing into this all-male organization. And, one thing they said, they're like, we want access. It doesn't matter if we're getting this information from a Black person, white, male, female, we just want to learn as much as we can, because a lot of them were saying that, their kitchen tables weren't used for, sitting down and having dinner with their families and talking about their days. Some of them were talking about some of the drug activities that took place at their table. And they all said that they wanted something better, and they wanted to be able to offer their wisdom in order to build and shape this program. And like I said, I'm very grateful for what they gave me. So I can't really take a lot of credit for what's going on because they helped shape this. And then the young men who are in the program now are continuing.
They helped shape it, but you definitely took the ideas and you have created a space for these young men. Let's talk about that space. So with the BSI, or Black Suit Initiative, you have young men now, all African-American, all Black, I should say, or of mixed race, and they are coming to you for what? What is the purpose at this point? Because it's changed from the Chosen. What is the purpose at this point, and what are the goals of the program?
So the premise is kind of still the same as the Chosen 50. It is still a leadership and community engagement program that allows them to improve in their academic performance. It allows them to learn more about different career opportunities. It gives them an opportunity to do outreach work within the community, and also team building opportunities. I mean, I think all those things are great, but I think just the network of young men coming together, it doesn't matter what their backgrounds are, because we do have a diverse background now. I mean, we have those who do live in poverty, and we have those who live in prosperity. But it doesn't matter. When you come into one of our meetings, everybody is together. It's a family, and they're together not because of my family's like this. They're together because maybe this group likes to cook, or maybe this group really likes, anime, or this group. So they're really coming together for their common interest, and they're also coming together for, a common goal of being successful. And the whole premise behind the black suit is, after their first year being in the program, we provide them with a full black suit, and we replace that black suit until they graduate from high school. So it's either replaced or it's altered. And then our closet is always open to all of our graduates for as long as this program will go on. If they need a suit for any reason, they're able to come and get a free suit from us.
And the
So
significance of that black suit is that you were saying people, when they're wearing that suit, it represents something to them in their spirits.
Right. And it was a research study in the University of California, and they show that people are more confident when they are wearing more formal attire. And it is, if you see some of the pictures of them, whether it's walking down the street or they're at a play or whatever the case may be, you will see that there is a pride because, for one, they've earned this. And then everybody is equal. Everybody looks stunning. And whenever they're walking, people are like, wow, you guys look really great. And you can just see how they're just beaming with such pride. So we like for them to feel confident in themselves. And, they're the ones who interview the new people who are able to come into the program. And we usually have a few holes every year because these young men can stay in the program until they graduate from high school. But our ambassadors, which is our highest tier of leadership, they're the ones who actually interview our new candidates. So they interview all the applicants, and they're the ones who make the recommendations as far as who comes into the program. And you will see as they're interviewing these candidates who are coming in, it can be pretty intimidating when you see these young, confident young men. But in that same regard, these young people are like, I really want to be a part of this program because I really want to look like them. So I'm extremely proud of who they're becoming and who some of our graduates have become.
And that's the reason, honestly, Evainna, that I wanted to talk to you and wanted you to be on this show, is because you have taken just bits and pieces of what is needed to maybe make a rounder person, somebody who is going to be able to go out, be able to find the job. So you do things like you have mentors who come in, you have some, not that they're, when I say tiers, I'm speaking career wise, but you have some top tier folks who have come and taken their time, CEOs, executive directors of companies, from the business realm to, I mean, just all across the board, who have come in and taken their time with these young men in an effort to try to help them get the success in life. And it's success, of course, I said on another show, is defined by the person. So it's not necessarily the money. It's not, many times it's finding that thing about which you're passionate. I mean, because you're running a nonprofit. I mean, you could speak from the perspective of the money, but you're doing something that's impacting so many people. So that is why I wanted to get you on. I know you've taken the young men on a train ride, and they went to a museum. Once they got to the end of that, they do something every weekend just about of the month. 3, I think you told me, weekends out of the month. They are doing public service projects for folks. They're growing things in the garden. Then they're taking the food and they're feeding folks. I mean, this program is amazing to me. I mean, it really is. I know that there are other agencies that are doing these sorts of things, but it's like you are taking the whole person and trying to walk them through their personal space in life to success. How does that feel to have that moment with these young people?
I absolutely love it. I always tell them I can't sleep the night before because I am so excited to see them. And so I said, whenever I lose that drive, it's time for me to step away. But, for now, I'm still excited. But I just am so impressed because these young men are so serious about their role in the organization. And I speak of my ambassadors, but I had one yesterday. We had a book face off. They have to read between the middle school and high school. They usually read about 6 novels within the year, and these are novels that they choose. And one young man couldn't make it to the book discussion yesterday, and so we had like a fun little challenge. So he wrote me this extremely long, for just 3 chapters of the book. That's all they had to read. he couldn't make it, but he wrote me like a page long synopsis of those 3 chapters and how they impacted him. And he was one of those who, when he was selected to be an ambassador, he's like, I don't really know if I can do it really well. And he was just so reluctant and not thinking he can do it. And to see how this young man over the past few months has just risen to the occasion, risen to this role that he's in, and to always go that extra mile. And once they've been in the program, you know, for at least a year, they take this so seriously. They are truly their brother's keeper. You know, even though there are still little friend cliques throughout, don't talk about anybody in the group because they are extremely protective of each other. And so that just makes me feel so good. And yes, I do work behind the scenes because I am working with them to be peer leaders, because it is difficult to get volunteers on the weekend to commit their time long term. We do have some volunteers who are there all the time. It's a small pod, but these young men are the ones who really take care of each other. They're the ones who are serving as peers, who, if they see someone, even on social media, I've had young people to call me and say, someone's social media posts are really bothering me. They seem like they're really sad. Can you reach out to them? And so that makes me proud, knowing that I'm a part of, you know, something even bigger, an even bigger family. And as someone who's an only child, being a part of this humongous family of sorts, because I've worked with like hundreds of kids over these past 30 years. And it just makes me feel so good to see them doing so well and caring about others, not just within the group, but within the community as well. And so I'm just proud to be a witness to what they're doing.
And just to let folks know, I know you from my church that I attended in Greensboro, and you always have been that person where you gush over every one of them. It's not, you know, you have hundreds, like you said, with whom you've worked, and this really touches your heart and really shows. How do you think people feel when they see this group, or tell me an experience that you've had? They see this group of African American, Black young men out in their suits or out, you know, for the day gardening. What is the reaction that you get from folks? What do people say?
For the most part, you know, there are different reactions, some positive and some not. A
Okay,
lot of
okay.
times, people think that they're a basketball team.
Mm,
Sometimes they have said, you know, oh, is this a juvenile delinquent organization?
mm.
But then once they see them, and I mess with people sometimes, it's like, no, this is a yacht club, or this is, we're just coming from the country club. So, uh, but for the most part, people are kind of in
Pardon.
awe. And it's sad that, you know, we've had a situation where I took them somewhere for a team building exercise, and a young white man said, I'll be honest with you, when I saw your group coming, I was expecting the worst.
Mm,
And he's like, but these are some of the most wonderful young men that we've ever had here.
yeah.
And we always stress, like when we're going to places, you know, be on your best behavior, because you may be the only interaction that some people may have with a young Black male, other than what they see on the news, or what's
Mhm.
portrayed in a rap video, or whatever the case may be. So when they're out, they represent well, they represent the organization well. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things, like at home, your kids may be like kind of off the wall, but
Oh
when they're
yeah.
out,
Oh yeah.
act really well. This is kind
Right.
of, you know, so if you're going to act silly or crazy when we're at our normal meetings, that's fine. But when we go out, you
Right.
better act like you have sense. And they
Right.
do.
Right.
The people are always in awe, and they're taking pictures. And when we took a group of them downtown to a restaurant, you know, people were on the street and they were taking pictures, and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys look so great. And, you know, you can just see them just beaming with pride, because, you know, not all the time do they hear or even see positive things about Black males. And so for people to actually see these young people
Mhm.
doing great things within the community, whether it is, feeding the homeless or, at a museum. People are just always so impressed by them. And so I think that I always tell them that if we're going to change the perception that the world has, then it starts here. And people are like, well, this is just a small portion. Small things can create even bigger, more wonderful things. And I kind of challenge them to be the change. We often talk about, how can we change the way people look at them? This is how we do it. We read books. We put things and project things on social media that project a positive image and a more uplifting image. We're more than just a dance challenge. We're more than just, sports. We have, intellectual people, and we have inventors and creators, and that's what I want people to see. And that's why this group is important, because I want them to see my paleontologist in the group. I want them to see the one who wants to be a meteorologist, because they're there. And this gives us the opportunity to highlight and feature some great young men.
And they're in a lot of communities, like you're implying. I mean, they're, and like you said, for some, this will be the only time potentially that they are up close and personal with a person of color, a Black person. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are saying, many are saying we're tired of teaching, tired of having to be the one, to be the voice. I can't just go someplace and be that person and do what I want to do. Not what I want to do. I'm not talking about, like you said, when we have our kids, we have that conversation. Okay, we're going here. I get that. I so get that. I'm a mom. I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, just in general, as far as these young men doing so great, doing their thing, but still having that little bit of weight on them. What's your thought about that? Do you think that that's not fair? I don't mean, I can't think of a better word though. Do you think it's their responsibility to make people understand them?
And we've had that conversation, and unfortunately it does fall on them. And I know that so often, I think sometimes we can become our own worst enemy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that for the sake of saying, it's a part of our culture, or it's a part of our race, and some of these things that we are embracing as something that's culturally acceptable is killing us. And
Mm.
so I am always saying we have to, I even challenge them, even with the music they listen to. I was like, all right, let's analyze these lyrics. Are these great lyrics? And then everybody wants to say, well, I only listen to the beat. No, you're not. You are digesting what is being fed to you. And
Yeah.
they have to make this choice that and say, I'm not going to listen to that particular music. I'm not going to support these people who I feel have the platform to make a change, and they're not doing that. So I feel like it does put more pressure on these young people, because they're going to have to be the ones that say, no, I'm going to stop that. I'm going to pull up my pants. I'm not going to talk like this. So we do kind of put the pressure on them, per se,
Yeah.
to be better than what the world expects of them. And I always do this little exercise about, if some aliens came and they were trying to take over the world, and they had to kind of learn the different races and
Mm-hmm.
genders, and I ask them, so what are they going to go back, what are they going to tell their leaders, how they're going to infiltrate the Black culture. And the first time I did this, they were saying, oh, lazy, you got to be loud, you got this. And I told them, I was like, the only thing you have is, TV and music and school.
Mm.
Tell me what they're going to take back. And so there were like 16 negative things before there was one positive thing that was brought up about them. And so I said, why did you start with all the negative things before you got to this one positive thing? And that first positive thing they said was athletic.
Mm.
So they're like, because that's who people think we are. And one young man said, gosh, I would really hate to have to come here to play the role as a young Black male. And so I was like, but you're a young Black male. He's like, I know. And it's really tough being me. And
Mm.
so we understand how tough it is. And I really like to allow them when they come into these meetings, even though we're very serious, but we really want them to actually be somewhere where they feel safe,
Mhm.
where they know that the people in the space are there to empower them and to uplift them. So this is a time where they can just be kids. And so I love taking, like, on a train ride. I love taking them there. We're going to see the Black Violin in February, and they're
Oh, awesome.
just various cultural things. I just want them just to have fun. Even us, like, even if you don't like it, I just want you to have the opportunity to experience and then have a conversation with me and tell me why you didn't like it. So you just
Mhm.
can't tell me I just don't like something. There's a conversation that's going to be had. So
Right.
so kind of going back to your thing, yes, I do believe that if we're going to change, then these young men, this generation, is going to have to be the generation to do it, because there's so many people who have been given the platform that could make a change. They're entertainers who could make a change, and they're not making a change for the positive, and they're continuing to bring these young men down because they're wanting to emulate who they are. And a lot of them are, college educated or grew up in, you know, relatively nice homes and stuff. However, they're portraying this image as if in order to be that Black
That's so
man,
good.
that,
Yeah.
a person, that you got to be a thug. And that's just, that's not what we need in order to change our perspective and change our success. So yes, I think it is up to these young men to make that difference, to be successful, to be peer mentors, to
Mhm.
give back to their communities, to serve in their communities. There are so many things that we need to do, um, as a race,
Mhm.
to be better and to support each other.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. I call this, and I probably should rename it because I ask a lot of questions. I call it the speed round, but it's something that where I have just a couple of bullet questions that I want to ask you, because this is just great information about how you are working with and through these young men and how they are working through the community. So I just enjoy and appreciate it. I talk to folks who have come on the show, and I consider you a leader. And you are a leader. You are leading a group of young men. You're leading the community. You're trying to encourage people and develop growth and development. What is a failure? I talk to people about failure because leaders, are people that people look up to and they say, hey, gosh, this person's there. They've made it. But many times we don't see the behind the scenes, what has happened prior to them making it. So I wanted to ask you about a failure in your life, something that you feel like was just a failure, and how you got out of that situation, how you came up from that situation.
I think when I first started this organization, I it's gonna sound bad, but I think that I had an elitist attitude, that I
Mm,
went into. I wanted to help, I wanted to change, but I didn't initially. I think I could have done a little more research. And one of the things, when I first started the Chosen 50, I had youth from a lot of different public housing communities, and I put them all in the room. It was 50 of them. I put them all in the room together because in my mind I was like, well, they all came from public housing, so they should all be able to get along because they have so much in common. And
mm,
I was like, gosh, I look back on it now and I'm like, you were horrible. I mean, I wanted to do
yeah,
what was right, but when
right.
I got them in the room, I had kids that were like, I don't like people from the north side. I don't like
Mhm.
people from that community. I'm not going to ride the bus with them. I'm not going to talk to them. And there was, even though we didn't have a fight or anything like that, it was
Right.
just these kids were just telling me all of this stuff about how they felt about each other in different
Hmm.
communities. And to me, I'm just like, kumbaya, everybody should, love
Right.
each other.
Right.
And um, and there were some challenges
Yeah.
that I did not anticipate. I worked through those challenges because I was determined you're going to get along. And so, force these team building things, but it helped me to understand. And they, by, another couple of months, everybody was blended. Everybody was friends because, at the end of the day, we're all people.
Hmm.
And I guess I went in there thinking that everybody should love one another. And I didn't see any differences, but there were some true differences. And even when I went into some of the communities and I was talking to different members and gang members and stuff, I had people to say, you can't approach people like this. You can't do this. And so with where I grew up, I didn't quite understand the other dynamics in other communities. And so I think I went in there as like, here I come to save the day. I'm going to take you all on trips and we're going to do fun things. And I really didn't take the time to learn the communities, to learn the people in the communities. And I can look and say that it was selfish on my part to think that I'm going in here with, ideas that I
you grew
genuinely,
up with. Yeah.
I genuinely wanted to help people, but I needed a little more time. And, I'm planning on expanding into my hometown in Virginia. And, people were like, well, when are you coming? When are you coming? And I was like, even though I grew up there, but it's been over 30 years ago since I was there, I really want to take my time and learn the young people in the communities, because there have been so many nonprofits who had gone into even the communities here. They go in, they got some grant money, they did a pop-up thing, and people were like really excited about it, and then they left. And so a lot of people didn't know who I was. Here I am, this stranger coming into their community, talking about all these things that I wanted to do. And I had not earned their trust. And so I had to put my time in and earning their trust, because so many people had left them, had abandoned them. So I think that was one of my greatest failures that I learned from. And so now I understand that it's important for me to talk to these young people. And that's really how the program has kind of changed from me per se trying to be in the front to me now being in the back and listening to people and listening to what's important, and then developing a curriculum based upon what's important to them, as opposed to me thinking that I have the solutions to things. Now I listen to other people because they're the ones that have the solutions. These are the young and fresh ideas. These are the young people that are going to make a difference. So from the background, I have the corporate experience now. I have the experience of working in the nonprofit spectrum, but it's been through a lot of bumps and bruises and heartaches. And yeah, but I wouldn't change any of those things, because I think it's made me into a better person, a kinder person, and one, even though I talk a lot, I listen. I
No.
listen a lot.
Well, I think that that's important what you're saying, because it's saying that you have to look at life from somebody else's perspective. You can't, we all do that though. We all approach life because that's all we know. So once you
Right.
go into another space, you have to learn that space. And then, so that's a great lesson. So you came up from that and you now know what to do moving forward. And that's really what Podbites with Verna is about. We want to try to figure out how to inform folks, inspire them, and then ignite them to do something. So you're saying you're now ignited to go and do this in your community where you grew up, which is great. And you're going to do the legwork this time first, you said, which is also, yeah. So that's great. Let me ask you another question in my speed round. Let me ask you about, oh no, don't worry about it. Let me ask you about advisors. When you look to somebody to advise you, I know you've been married 30 years. How involved do you find you want your spouse? I know that he lets you do your thing. I've seen him, I know him. But when I'm talking about advisors, it can be Kevin, it can be whoever. Who do you look to for advice in your business life, in your personal life? Where do you go?
Kevin is probably going to be the one. He does his thing, I do my thing. And but when I'm at kind of like my wit's end, because sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? Where's this funding going to come from? And he's that one who always puts me in check. And he's always like, why are you worried? When have you not found money? When has God not blessed you with everything that you need? Why do you always doubt yourself? And I do. And because I don't want to fail these young people. I'll fail. all the time, but I don't want to fail them. They are so important to me. And, there are times, there are months where I've gone without getting any type of salary. I left a job where I was making really good money and gave it up to, like, I don't know if I'm going to get anything, but I will give it all up for them. And so sometimes, even in my excitement, it can be overwhelming. And he's the one who's really always been there for me, always been there when I just don't think that I have what it takes. And he's the one who's like, yes, you do. Go out there and do what you need to do. And, he just said it to me a couple of days. He's like, I don't get you. He's like, you have all the ideas and have all this stuff. And he's like, you have always doubted yourself. I was like, I know, because I was like, I don't know why. But I care so much about people and not failing people. And so I would say he's the one who always will push me. And, even if I come up short every now and again, he'll say, don't worry about it. We've got this. Go ahead and do what you need to do. So I would have to say he's my main one here who keeps me. My parents, and I have great friends who are there as well, but he's the one who sees me at my lowest moments when I think I failed somebody. If a kid might get in trouble, or, I've had one who was killed last year who had graduated from the program. And, there have been some really dark moments where I have really invested a lot of time and heart into it. And to see someone not achieve their full potential is really painful to me. And so he's that one who's always strong for me when I feel like I've failed somebody or failed myself.
I was going to ask you about your graduates. That's an added question. I was going to say, kind of, how are folks doing? Do you find that the program has been successful long term, and have they been doing things? Because you now have a good bit of data, I would imagine, because you've been doing this for quite some time.
Yes. So we do at this point, I think it was 14. We've had 14 graduates, and we've only had one that I spoke of who was tragically killed. The others, we have 4 who are in college now. The others have either been to college, have graduated. Some have their own businesses now. They're all employed. No one is incarcerated. They're all doing extremely well. So I have kept up with just about all of them, or I have a feeler like if I needed to get in touch with one, then I can easily get in touch. But they're all doing extremely well. And I'd say 5 or 6 of them have come back. If they're in town, they come back and they volunteer. Some have sent letters. Some stay connected with some of the members in the group through social media or on the phone. So it's always a brotherhood, and a lot of them I would see on social media, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they still hang out with each other. That's great. And it's all because of being in the program, and that brotherhood never changes. And the ones who've graduated, they call all the other guys in the group their sons, and they're like, how are my sons doing? And I'm like, your sons are doing fine. And so they'll come back and they'll visit. But I'm just extremely proud of the young men. They've all done extremely well.
I also ask, do you feel like, as a result of pushing and going so hard for these young men and for the program, is there anything that you have sacrificed? Do you feel like there's something in your life that you haven't been able to pay as much attention to because you are gung ho, understandably so, for this? Have there been sacrifices in your life?
Absolutely. I don't know the last time I've really been even on a vacation.
Mm, mm,
Um, but yeah, I've just over the past year or two, I've gotten to the point where I do take care of myself a little better, because it's always, this is a 6-7 day, even though we meet on Saturdays, during the week, I'm writing grants, I'm having meetings, trying to get funding and things of the sort. And with almost every Saturday being committed to working with him, it just doesn't allow for me to like do weekend getaways and things of that
Mm,
sort. Um, I've been better. I've been trying to be better with that and just taking care of myself because it's one me, and so I have to take care of me. So I would say that I've really kind of sacrificed. I'm glad while I was kind of working in corporate America where I was making some decent money that I was able to travel and I got a lot of those things done.
yeah.
But I would say that I've lost a lot of downtime, but it's not really important. Working with people and working for people, that's more important in that, and that gives me joy. I do definitely make time for my family
Mm.
and time for my parents and things like that. Um, I just don't always take time for me, but I'm getting better. I,
I'm gonna check in with you soon to see if you
I'm
are getting better. Well, my last question, if you were doing something else, you said at some point when it's not fun to you, not that that's going to happen, but if that does happen, what do you think you'd be doing? Were you not doing this sort of work? What would you do?
well, okay. I would like to have my own foundation, and
Okay.
once again, I'll still be trying to dig up money and things of the sort. But I would like to have a family foundation that really would be able to provide funding to startup nonprofits who are
Mm,
working with youth in the community. So it's so difficult for nonprofits because there's so many larger nonprofits who have been around forever, and unless you're willing to be in for the long haul and do a lot of sacrificing,
mhm,
it can be very difficult to get started because a lot of people aren't willing to give you a chance, because a lot of the foundations and funders, it's just really easy for them to fund the same organizations year after year. They
sure.
know the success of the program, or they know the person who runs the program, and it's a lot of who and so I've had to put my time in to get to a level where I can get decent funding now. But I want to be able to help those startup nonprofits who have these magnificent ideas, and other people aren't going to give them the opportunity to grow that idea. So I want a foundation that's going to be able to help those nonprofits. And then on the other side, I want to have a construction company as well.
Hmm,
My dad was
okay.
a contractor. I want to be able, I don't really necessarily have the patience, I don't think right now, but I want to be able to help young men who might have gotten in some sort of trouble with the law to give them the opportunity to learn a trade. So, actually paying for them to go to school so that they can become contractors. So, until I am, if people are like, you're in your 50s now, you can't, you don't have much time, you'll be retiring soon.
Oh,
There's plenty of time to retire. I can sleep when I'm in
exactly.
the grave, as long as I am able to work and have, the activity of my limbs and my brain and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to work, and I'm going to try to help as many people as I can, because I do want to leave a legacy for, my daughter, and leave a legacy, and allow, other people to be able to leave legacies because they become successful. And I'm just an humble servant, and I just am so proud of what these young men have already done, and what they're going to continue doing. And I just am going to be happy just to say that, I had just a small
Mm.
little, portion of their success, a little teeny tiny bit. And that's what pushes me, and that's what's going to keep me moving on to help the next generation. I'm just going to keep going.
I know. I've seen it, and I know the passion that you have for it. I've seen it up close. I appreciate it, everything you're doing, because I love Greensboro. All of our stories are not from Greensboro, but a good number are, because I'm like, I know so much good work goes on there. There's so many things, so many interesting people that I've known over the years, you being among them. So I appreciate your time. I want to give people a couple of words, and I call them bites to go. They're little bits and pieces of what you just gave, of to us. So I want to just kind of share this. So let's go back. You said to your young men in your group in the Black Suit Initiative, you tell them to be better than what the world expects of you. You said that's really important when I asked you about the weight that's on them. You said that you're expecting them to do well and be better than what the world expects of you. You also said if we're going to change the world, these young men are the generation that will have to do it. So again, it's like a call to action. You were saying, be the change. And you actually said that, be the change that you want to see. And so I know that we have lots of information that we can give people because people are going to want to know, A, how to get involved to give. And people would also want to know if they have a child in town who they think might benefit from something like a group like this. What can they do? I know that you don't have spaces right now, but you every year, look at your ranks and you kind of add. So can you talk to about where they can find you, the email or not the email, the website, and then go
Mhm.
ahead and tell us how people would get involved if they want to give and if they want to participate in the group.
Sure. And all that can be done on our website, which
Okay.
is blacksuit.org. And there is a opportunity for you to send information to me if you're interested in volunteering. Also, if you're interested in giving, there's a place on there as well. And we will open up our applications again in May 2022. I do not know how many spots we will have. We do have 7 seniors this year, so minimally
Mm,
we'll have 7 openings once they graduate. So May through June is when we accept our online applications. If people aren't able to be online, they can of course contact me. My phone number is online, but I can give you my number, which is 336-549-0146. If you're interested in getting an application, one could be mailed to you. In July, all the applications we receive are youth ambassadors are the ones who review all the applications, and then everyone who applies is able to come in. And it's like a 10-minute interview process, and then they make the decision in late July, and then in August we start up again. But for the most part, we run August through June. So there's
mm.
really only a 1-month break that we have, and the ambassadors don't get a break at all. They meet 12 months out of the year.
Okay, well, an exciting program. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing it with us. I really appreciate your time. You were just listening to Evainna, and she is, of course, the executive director and the founder, obviously, of the Sparrow's Nest, Evainna Ross. And I always try this. Now, last time I shut the system down, so I'm going to step up here and try to let you know we have a couple of folks who have dropped in and they're just watching. We have somebody from our church watching, Devante Smith. You know him. So that's an exciting thing. Obviously, let's see who else. Of course, I've hit something crazy. There we are. I always do that. Percy Price is watching, obviously, also a member of our church, Calvary Christian Center. A friend of mine from my church where I grew up, Jeanette Brown Johnson, watching. We just appreciate you guys coming on, taking a moment to watch. We really appreciate that. And I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, but Matthias is watching as well. We appreciate your time and we appreciate you, Evainna Ross, as I said, and we are going to keep up with you, obviously. You are doing such great things. Just thank you so much. And I'm going to give people a little bit of information. Of course, remember, Podbites with Verna is going to be back next Sunday. We're going to have another hidden figure, and we hope that you can join us then. Be sure to go to the website, which is podbiteswithverna.com. And you can also comment if you come and you don't see the live. I'm pointing here. I hope I'm pointing to the right spot. But if you don't see the red button that says live, then this is the recorded version. And we'd love for you to write me a note. Let me know you were here, and I'll go ahead and say hi to you as well. Evainna, I hope to talk to you really soon. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your time and for your tireless work.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
All right. All
You
the best to you.
great you're doing as well.
Oh, you're sweet. I thank you. Love you so much. Thank you for your time. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.